There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonko table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonko table, the table that will make their dreams come true. Yo, everyone. That is the voice of your Yonko host for today, DrJaceAttorney. And today we're having our second ever Vivre card special. We have a very special guest here with us today. We're super excited to talk with him. He's been a big name in the animation industry for many, many years, and we can't wait to talk about all the things that he's had influence on. But with me, as always, is fellow Yonko, Grandmaster. Grandmaster? You excited for today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell, I'm definitely nervous. But again, this is our second guest that we ever brought onto the show. And again, when we bring people on, they're people who are in the game, they're in the industry, they're writing, they're directing, they're producing. So when we get them on, it's like, oh goodness, this is real. So I'm very excited for today. This is near and dear to my heart for sure.
Likewise. Well, folks, let's not waste any more time. Our special guest today, he is director, producer, and writer of many hit animated television series from across the medium. He's had a role in the Looney Tunes show, Dilbert, some episodes of Family Guy, 8 Crazy Nights, and most recently, the release of the Kingdom Hearts pilot. We're going to get into all of this very, very soon. But with us today is Seth Kearsley. Seth, how have you been, my man?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I don't know, the whole hit shows thing, I don't know that that's happened for me yet. I've worked on other people's hit shows, but... Eight Crazy Nights was fun. No one called it a hit. I'm enjoying the cult classic. I love hearing that people watch it every year at Christmas, and there's people that watch it every night of Hanukkah. So that's cool. But it would be nice to have like an actual hit that happens like as it comes out. That would be good.
I think you gotta give yourself a little more credit. I mean, I think, yeah, as you said, cult classic. There's a fandom. There's nonetheless a fandom.
Yeah,
and we're definitely part of that. It's a hit to us.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. I mean, I can at least speak for 8 Crazy Nights. That was a movie that I remember growing up in the early to mid 2000s. When that came out, that was a movie that would come on alongside, those other films like Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer, or, those yearly movies that would come out around Christmas time. And I remember watching this, and I remember enjoying it as a kid back then. And I still enjoy it to this day. So it is definitely a film that I think is a fondly remembered cult classic, at least for me.
Yeah, I only just recently started to like make it a part of like the family tradition, because my girls are 12, they'll be 13 soon, and even though I met my wife on the movie, she was
wow.
Like, they can't see it until they're old enough to see it, and I'm like, come on. So I think the first time they saw it was like just before the pandemic, so I think they were like 10 or something, but there was a theater out here that was doing rooftop cinema thing, and so they were doing all kinds of different holiday movies during the holidays, and they did that, and they reached out, and so I was like, I mean, come on, we're gonna watch it with an audience. Like, when are we gonna get an opportunity to watch it with an audience? But then it was like with headphones on, because it's outside, and so you couldn't really hear anyone laughing, or you couldn't really hear responses. All I could hear was my wife, at like, some of the like more off-color jokes, going, and I was like, can you please stop doing that? Like, this movie, like, you helped make it. Like, can you stop being that mom that's like, like, what's coming up. Like, why are you acting surprised?
That's hilarious. So if some people don't know, for our viewers, so you were the director
Yeah.
of Eight Crazy Nights. What was your wife's role? That's very cool.
She was a coordinator for the animation department and then for the cleanup department, and so we met on that, and then we started dating after. But she definitely knew the movie like inside and out. So.
And that's, I mean, I feel that's a legacy in itself. That's part of y'all's history, and
Yeah.
you know, screw what the naysayers say about this movie. That brought you to your wife, so I think
Right.
that's a
It's
great
a fond
little-
memory.
Yeah.
A faded
Remember that time we
encounter.
made that movie?
The hit cult classic. But no, for sure. I kind of also want to see, you know, since Eight Crazy Nights, that was like around 2002. You know, what was your like early start in the industry? Like, you know, what was your early career like, or your first big break? Was it Eight Crazy Nights, or did you have other projects beforehand?
I mean, Eight Crazy Nights is definitely the high water mark. But I started my first job outside of school, and I'm grabbing the thing because I actually have it on my desk. But the Max, you guys know the Max?
The Max.
That was for MTV. This guy.
It kind of
you
looks familiar. I never associated a name with it before, but like the design looks very familiar.
Yeah. So that was the first thing out of school, and when I was trying to get into CalArts, I was drawing from a lot of Sam Keith's comic books because he has like a really interesting style that's kind of realistic, but not. So when that show came, it was done at Rough Draft, which is mostly known for doing Futurama.
Okay.
But this was the first thing that they did with Rough Draft LA, and then there's a Rough Draft Korea that does a ton of animation for a ton of shows. But the guy who was running that was from CalArts also, and he just put a flyer up at the school, and I saw the flyer, and I went down and got the job. And you always wonder, like, am I actually going to be able to get a job? Like, I've spent all this money to go to this school. Am I actually going to be able to pay off my student loans?
Right.
And so I had been working with my dad before that in construction, and I think I was making when I got this job, it was the exact same amount that I was making working for my dad. So it was $800 a week.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh yeah, someone's actually going to pay me to do this. And I went to the interview with a couple other friends from school, and we all had that same, like, as we were walking away from the building, we were all walking, like, trying to play it cool, but all like, oh my god, we're actually going to be able to like make money. Oh my god. So it was like the beginning of the dream. And then after the Max, the next gig was working on The Simpsons. So I worked on season 7 of The Simpsons. My first episode was the Lisa the Vegetarian episode. And I think my first scene on that was they watched like some Troy McClure video presented by the meatpacking industry.
Okay.
And they're like, and scientists agree. And then they cut to this scientist that's like, that was my first scene.
Proud moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's The Simpsons.
I did all of the animals in that because, like, I guess I could do animals. So then I also, in that episode, I didn't even realize that this was a meme, but where it's like the little cute lamb, and then another like cuter lamb comes in, and Homer's like, "Oh, wait, you," I keep panning from one cute lamb to the next. That was also one of the scenes that I laid out. Like, it's boarded and someone else wrote it, but like I did the drawings for the thing. So then I go from there to Disney for Timon and Pumbaa,
Wow.
and from I was, it was kind of like I was like doing a season there, and then a season there, and then a season there.
Right.
And so at Disney, I was still doing character layout. On the Max, I did storyboards and character layout. And when I went to The Simpsons, they were like, "Do you want to do storyboards?" And I was like, "Well, maybe let me like get to know the show a little bit before I jump into boards." And
Right.
then when I was finally like, "All right, I'm ready to jump into boards," they're like, "Well, we don't have any board positions for you." I'm like, "All right, then I'm gonna go find a job where they've got a board position," because I was like, I mean, this is season 7. Like, how much longer
Right.
could this go?
Oh man, famous last words for The
Yeah,
Simpsons.
but at the time, like 7 seasons,
Right.
like every season was like, okay, this is it. This is gonna be it.
Very true. Very
And
true.
now they're at like 32 or 34 or something like that.
Easily.
Yeah. I know people that are still working on the show from back then, and probably their entire career will be working on The Simpsons, and they'll. But I don't know. I guess because growing up, doing construction with my dad, like you finish a house and then you move on, you make the next house. Like you don't keep working at the same house. So it just felt natural to like just keep moving around. And also, I really wanted to direct. And so I looked at The Simpsons as I think they had 8 directors at the time, and and then 8 assistant directors, and then 8 timers, and you sort of went from timer to assistant director to director.
Right.
And then there were all of the character layout artists that were there before I was there, and I was just like, man, if I stay here, it's going to be like 10 years before it's my turn to direct, and I don't want to wait 10 years. So
Right.
So when I was at Disney, I was on Timon and Pumbaa, and then I was also freelancing work for Nightmare Ned, and then I was also freelancing work for Project Geeker at Sony, and then at Disney there was a development gig that happened that it was for this character called Moxie that someone had done like 3 comics of, and they optioned it from they went to San Diego Comic-Con and were like, we'll take that.
Yeah.
And on The Simpsons, I had worked with Eric Stefani. He was in that little band, No Doubt. So I was like, man, we could get like, and at the time, like No Doubt was just starting to get radio play.
Right.
And I was like, man, we could get like that I'm Just a Girl song and use that as like the theme song for this show, and then get Gwen to do the voice. And everyone's like, no one knows who this band is. All right. Yeah, no one knows, so I went from development there to then I had a meeting at Deke for Mummies Alive, and I had never directed. I had only boarded really on the Max, and I had done like my freelance boards, but this was meeting to like produce and direct the show for them, and it was 42 half hours. And I think I was like 23 or 24, and the guy outlined this like grueling schedule, and he's like, it's going to be like for most of the time it's going to be 2 episodes a week, so like each week that's like 2 premises, 2 outlines, 2 first drafts, 2 final drafts, 2 record drafts for all different episodes. All need to be approved. 2 episodes going into design, 2 episodes going into boards, 2 episodes coming out of boards and going into timing, and 2 episodes shipping. And that's all at the same time. So at one point, he's like, you'll be working on 26 episodes at the same time in different phases of production. And he's like, and then that's when it'll go up to 3 episodes a week, so we can get it done in time. So 42 half hours in a year and a half. And I was the only director. If someone gave me that schedule now, I'd be like, you can't do that. That's a nightmare schedule. It needs to be twice as long.
It sounds like it.
And we need like, at least 2 other directors. But I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah. He's like, do you think you can do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I just figured like, if I completely fell flat on my face doing it, that it was their fault for hiring a completely inexperienced director, and so it was kind of my trial by fire, and I learned a lot on that show, like a lot of what not to do, a lot of like how to take shortcuts, and you know, a lot of like how to like make it look like we spent more money than we did, and then at Sony, I had done the Project Geeker stuff for Sony, and my associate producer for Mummies went to Sony to be like the head of production, and so she called me down for Dilbert, and so I went over there for Dilbert, and ended up getting the supervising director gig, and so we did 2 seasons of Dilbert, and 30 episodes, and by the time we were wrapping the 2nd season, there was talk of this Adam Sandler animated movie, and I was like, I want to do it. And they're like, well, what if the script sucks? And I'm like, I don't care, I want to do it. I was a huge Sandler fan, and I watched, I was like opening night for Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and Waterboy and like all those things, and I was the guy that was like, quoting the movie, and if we were friends, you would have heard me say it over and over, like different things from the movie, and so I totally wanted to do it, and I harassed everyone, and then they hired someone else, and I was like, man. And they're like, but you can be a sequence director, and all my friends were like, you should be a sequence, just do it, and then at least you've worked on a movie, and then the next movie comes along, you can be the director. And so on the Friday I said, okay, I'll do the sequence director thing, and they're like, great. And then on Monday morning I got a call from that producer that I said I would do the thing, and he was like, if you haven't gone into work yet, don't go into work. I might need you to come up to Sandler's today. And it turned out that the guy who had been hired was fired on Monday morning.
Oh, wow.
He neglected to give them some information about what was going on with him. He was getting married, and they were planning this 2-month-long honeymoon. And they're like, geez,
no, yeah, that's going to be a problem.
We're going now. The director can't take 2 months off.
Right.
So they fired him, and then I got to go up. I got to go interview. So yeah, I've just been motor mouthing. So you guys have me after 2 coffees. And so
no,
throw some questions in if you want to hear.
Well, I mean, everything you said, you're part of a lot of big projects that, you say The Simpsons, you mentioned Timon and Pumbaa.
I did not know Timon and Pumbaa. That's a big one.
I wasn't aware. And then you working with No Doubt before they blow up.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I heard, I listened to the Tragic Kingdom album with Eric's demo the first time. So I heard the demo version of the album, and I was like, oh man, dude, that Don't Speak song, that hits hard. You guys should make that the first one. He's like, no, I think that they want to do the I'm Just a Girl one first. That's what they want to release, because at that time there was a lot of girl power stuff going on, a lot of female singers coming up, so that was also around the same time Alanis Morissette had the Jagged Little Pill album, so I'm Just a Girl sort of fit the vibe of what was going on at the time, but still I think Don't Speak is their biggest hit off of that album.
I would say so. I know I'm Just a Girl just got major replay with Captain Marvel, but I just feel that's something that was kind of you didn't see. It wasn't you went to Cal Arts,
yeah,
and then you're working with No Doubt, and I don't know if that was on your radar, but it's cool to look back at now.
Yeah, well, my roommate from Cal Arts was Gabriel McNair, who was gigging with No Doubt on the weekends while we were at school. And then I think he ended up not finishing because the Tragic Kingdom album blew up, and then he just started touring with No Doubt. They're doing like nonstop world tours, and he still plays with Gwen today. So he was on the music side and I was on the animation side, and we talked about how Tim Burton and Danny Elfman met at CalArts. And I was like, we could be like Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. And so I've had him do music for me for a bunch of things. So like, Brown and Friends is the show that I have that just dropped on Netflix. It's almost a month. And he did the music for that. And so the music is just like, it's really like, you could watch it just for the music. It's that good. Like he crushed it.
Oh, gee. Oh, now that's on my list now. And yeah, I wanted to ask more about CalArts. So that is a prestigious school, as you said. Like Tim Burton went there. The whole A113 crew and everybody associated with that. Was that always on your radar? You wanted to, be in animation. CalArts is the place you need to be.
I didn't know any of that. I didn't know anything about animation. I was working, I started working for my dad when I was like 9. And, like you start off as the gopher, it's like, go for this, go for that.
Right.
And so he would say like, I need a framing square. And I'm like, I don't know what a framing square is. And so he would draw what it was and then send me to the van to find the framing square. And then gradually I got to where, like, by the time I was in high school, like, I was making like a really good living working for my dad. Like, I could have supported myself in high school with the money that I was making. And then I had a friend that went to CalArts, and I had like never thought about art school. Like I always drew. And my parents were always like, you should do something with your art. But like, they never like put me into classes or like help me with any kind of guidance as to like, well, what can you do with art? Because like all I knew was that artists starved and went crazy, and then were famous like after they were dead, and like that doesn't sound like a good life. But like I never even thought about the fact that like all of the comic books that I was reading, there were artists that did those, and I never thought like I was really into animation. I was like when The Simpsons came out, I think I was maybe I was in junior high when The Simpsons came out, or I was in high school, and like I was still watching cartoons. And then it was like not cool for me to be watching cartoons anymore. Different time.
Right.
It's very similar now. I think it's a little less now.
I think it's less now. Yeah.
Very less. Yeah.
And so when The Simpsons came out, it was like, okay, cool. This is a cartoon for the age that I'm at. So like, it's cool to watch cartoons again. And so I had, this friend that went to CalArts. And so my junior and senior year of high school, he would invite me and another friend to go out to go to some of the parties, which the parties were just like insane. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go to this school because these parties are insane. I need to go to this. And like, he went to the school because it was like the number one, like he had read something of like in Playboy of like the top 10 party schools, and like CalArts was in there for top 10 party schools.
Wow.
So I'm going.
So not even worried about animation, just worried about the party scene.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about animation at all. And then
that's perfect.
I was like, I've got to go. So I would walk around the animation department and I'd see all these drawings on the walls, and I'd see drawings on people's desks and things like that. And like literally on the desk and on the walls, like just like, there was like one phone on this side of the department and one phone on that side of the department. If you wanted to get a hold of someone, you called that phone, and whoever answered it could then go find the person you were looking for. And, it's the cord phone. And so like, you've got a bunch of artists with pencils, like, doing, and, when, at that time, like Craig McCracken was at the school, so you've got like
Oh,
Craig McCracken
wow.
drawings on the walls, and Gendy Tartakovsky was at the school, so you've got Gendy drawings on the walls, and a bunch of other guys that you don't know, but that were just as good, if not better, than those guys, also just doodling on the wall.
Hmm.
And there was one time that I was going through the department, and I kept hearing this like beep beep, and like it sounded like the there's a battery is dead on a smoke detector or something,
Right.
like, because it kept going like at regular intervals. And so and I'm drunk from the party, because like the parties were like you'd go and there'd be like this whole like wall, like with like 10 different like water cooler things, like the 5-gallon water cooler,
Right.
Right, yeah.
but it's all mixed drinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Oh.
you could, it's basically jungle juice. And you could go and get, like, I went the purple one this time or whatever. And so I'm walking through the animation department, and I follow the sound of this beep beep until I get to a camera room, and I'm watching this guy like shoot his student film, and and it rolled back 5 seconds, and then he would change out the drawings, and he had a stack of drawings on this side and a stack of drawings on this side, and he was just like putting down drawings and closing the plat, and taking 2 frames and then taking it off and putting it on this pile and grabbing another one like that. And so I got to like watch his film, like just 5 seconds at a time, like like just gradually moving through the
Right.
scene.
Right.
And he was so focused doing what he was doing, he didn't realize I was standing behind him watching. And then at a point I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I'd never thought about how animation was put together. And I was like, oh my God, it's just like a flip book. Like, I've done a flip book before. I don't know what a flip book is. So that guy was Pete Docter.
Pete Docter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And his student film was about this old guy with a square head, who's annoyed by this girl with her balloon, and her balloon gets stuck in his tree, and he helps her get it out. But like very much like the inspiration for Up. So so then it wasn't just about the parties, but it was about the parties. But then it wasn't just about the parties, because I was like, oh my God, like this is really cool. I like this. So my friend was like, I mean, you could probably get in with your sketchbooks. And so I brought my sketchbooks out, and I'm thinking like, yeah, it was like during the summer. I just finished my senior year of high school. I'll just go out there. I'll show them my sketchbooks. I'll get in. I'll start in the fall. And I took my sketchbooks out, and the guy flipped through the sketchbooks, and he's like, "Yeah, no, you've got a lot of work to do. Like you're not ready. And besides, you've missed the deadline for applying for the school by about 6 months."
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I spent the next, like I signed up for nothing but art classes. I was living in Ventura, and Ventura and Valencia are connected by a highway. So we would go out to Valencia all the time to go to Magic Mountain, and CalArts was out there, so it was like it just seemed familiar. And but at the time, there was a huge drought that was happening, and Ventura had stopped issuing building permits for anything that involved new plumbing. And so my dad's business had been buying a house that was zoned for more than one unit, and then adding additional units, and that was sort of like his thing. So he suddenly couldn't do that anymore because of the building restrictions, and so he moved back to Ohio, because his mom and his mother-in-law were both at an age where they needed to be cared for. And so I decided to stay in Ventura, and work on getting into CalArts. and I was basically living in a one-car garage that had no bathroom, and then there was a camper behind it that had, like a propane tank that you could like cook stuff in the stove and stuff like that, and but no bathroom, and I just spent the whole time working on my portfolio and trying to get into CalArts, and basically starving, and I was shoplifting food from the big box grocery store.
Oh man!
And
ain't no shame.
Shoplifting art supplies, and my car got broken into. My car almost got stolen. And then they busted the driver's side window. And then ironically, that winter was an El Nino year. And so we got more rain than we had in 10 years. And it was just like pouring into my car.
Oh man.
So I also had a motorcycle. So there was a lot of like going to my classes in like ski gear on a motorcycle in the rain just to go to classes.
My goodness.
And so I ended up not really like, my grades weren't staying up because I just like, there was too many like complications with the whole thing.
Right.
And so finally, like, after, I don't know, like 6 months or whatever, I was definitely going to go back out to CalArts with my portfolio, and I had been working on nothing but what they said to work on. But still, I didn't have like an actual porportfolio, like, where you like, it's like the big, the old portfolios,
the
like,
big presentation.
Yeah, I still just had a sketchbook, that I shoplifted. Shoplifted art supplies.
You do what you gotta do.
And
look at you now.
And so I went back out to CalArts, and the head of the animation school was like flipping through my sketchbook, and while he's flipping through the sketchbook, I'm telling him this like, what I now like at the time was just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. But like now looking back, like if some kid was telling me this story, I'd be like, oh my God, like the drive that this kid has, that like over all of these things, he still was like, I'm coming back a year later, and here's my, and so but when someone like looks at your sketchbook, that's like in the business, oh, you can't see the sketchbook, but it's like, like they go like that fast,
Right.
And so but I'd never had someone look at my sketchbook like that. Like it was always like friends or family who like stop on every page and like,
right,
what's this? But he's like as fast as he could turn the pages. And so I'm just telling this story the whole time. And at the end, like he finished looking at my sketchbook, but I was still telling the story. And then like he pulls out a drawer and like takes out a piece of paper, and I'm like, oh my God, like he's just going back to work.
Wow.
Like I blew this so hard.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, it was all in my head, like I need to wrap it up, because like he's just back to work, and this is embarrassing at this point. And so he was filling out an acceptance card, and he was like, here you go, I'll see you in the fall. I was just like,
wow.
He's like, take this to admissions, they'll send you a packet, for the, I don't know, the financial aid, or the financial packet that when I got that, that's when it was real. Because like when he gave me that card, I was like, no, like it can't be that easy. Like,
Did this really just happen?
He's just moving me out of his office, and then I'm gonna get a letter that says further consideration. But like when the packet came and was like, all right, so we'll see you in the fall, and this is how much tuition is, and this is how much housing is, and this is how much your materials fees are, I was like, oh my God, like I don't have that much money.
Right.
So that's when I moved back to Ohio and worked with my dad, like to save up enough money to like at least be able to afford the first semester. And I just figured like, maybe like if I can like impress them in the first semester, maybe like they'll help me out. And then they did. So then I was able to get financial aid. And but it was always like I had to like work my ass off every summer to like save up enough money to be able to afford to go to school. And I did have student loans and stuff like that, but yeah, then I live off of ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and and then I had friends there that had like both parents were doctors, and and they're like living the high life, going to Denny's and getting steak. I'm like, I'm getting a bean burrito from Taco Bell. That's my
burritos go a long way, though. They really do.
Yeah,
they still go hard today.
Yeah, I mean, you get to a point where you just really, really, really hate cup of noodle, but like you've got to eat, and that's what you've got to eat. So when I get to that first gig, and it's like, oh my god, like I'm actually going to be able to like make a living and like feed myself. And I think on that first on the Max, I went from living off of ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to there was a ribs place that had this this. It was called Brandon the Banker, and that was like the special plate that you could get that had 4 ribs, and they were like that.
Jeez.
And 4 ribs and 2 sides. That was Brandon the Banker. And so I would go and there was a liquor store next door. So I would go and I would get a Brandon the Banker, and I would get a 6-pack of beer, and I'd go back to my house and watch TV and
fancy living.
Yeah, I was living the high life. And by the end of the Max, one of the producers was like, "Oh, Seth, are you getting a little bit of a gut?" I'm like, no. But I was, because I was actually eating. So, yeah, that's Cal Arts. I mean, there's like tons of crazy other things that happened at Cal Arts. Like, I remember the first day that I moved in, like my room had like the best view of the clothing optional swimming pool. And I was just like, oh my god. Oh my god. Like, that's just right there.
This is perfect.
Yeah. Sold. Why didn't you mention the clothing optional swimming pool before?
I think that's how they keep a lot of students there. That's their retention
Yeah.
plan right there. Yeah.
So yeah. And then after 8 Crazy Nights, I was trying to find like something else. I was taking all kinds of different meetings, and I was trying to sort of like plant the seed of this concept of American anime, and like I was looking at like the stuff that like Japanese directors got to do that we definitely didn't get to do, so and I think that like Samurai Jack is definitely an American anime.
For sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a lot of things that you point to. Airbenders, Avatar: The Last Airbender, definitely American anime. So my agent at the time was like, you should go to Disney and talk to them about this show. Like, it's based on this game, and it's sort of like taking like the Final Fantasy like anime world, and then like the classic Disney characters, and sort of combining them. And so he's like, it's exactly what you're saying, American anime. And I was like, yeah, let me check it out. And so I met for Kingdom Hearts, and I'd never heard of the game. I was heavy into Grand Theft Auto 3 at the time.
That's a fair game. A lot of people were
at the time.
Right. Gotta finish all those side missions. But after 8 Crazy Nights, like I had a lot of time where it was just meetings, like day in, day out, like meetings. And then I was just playing Grand Theft Auto and annoying my then girlfriend, now wife. So I played the game. I met on the thing. They had a script, but they also had the game, and I played the game. And just like I just put Grand Theft Auto to the side, and then played nothing but Kingdom Hearts. And so I finished the game in about a week. And
oh wow!
and then I read the script, and the script was nothing like what the game was like. Like the script read like an episode of Aladdin, co-starring the Kingdom Hearts characters.
So that's interesting because you played the game, you beat it in a week. I mean, we were probably in second grade, so it probably did not take us a week.
That game got kind of hard for us kids.
So when you beat it and then you read the script, was it upsetting to read the script that this was not the experience you just put a week of time into?
I mean, you know, I just thought like this isn't the show. Like, you know, and you know, knowing that the game hit in a lot of worlds that Disney had already done animated series, that like this couldn't be the pilot. Like this couldn't be what the show was about, because then it would always feel like that the Kingdom Hearts characters were, you know, second tier compared to, you know, the more famous, you know, Disney heroes and heroines, and so I told them that I didn't like the script, and then they fired me. And then I was like, Gwen, can I talk to you about the script though? Can I tell you why I didn't like the
real
script?
Quick.
So it turns out that like the guy who was running Disney at the time, like that premise was his premise, so that's why he took it a little personal. I didn't know it was his premise, and I was like, you know, I played the game, and you know, like anyone who's going to be like coming to this show, like they will have played the game. Like, you know, maybe like there won't be some people, but like you're making this like show because the game is such a huge success,
right?
And just like with the Max, like you know, the Max was a comic book, you know, it was like in that first wave of Image Comics. You know, Sam Keith had been doing Wolverine before, and so, you know, he did the Max, and it was his own creator-owned comic for Image. And when we were doing the Max, we were like, you know, we hate when like animation does a comic book, and then it just doesn't feel like the comic book at all. So, you know, with the Max, right. You know, it has all of the insert panels that he would do, and like, you know, we just brought the comic book to life. And so with Kingdom Hearts, I just wanted to like do the same thing and like really respect the game. And you know, I didn't want to tell like a one-to-one exact you know, just retelling of the story of the game. But I felt like that there was a lot of stuff that that you didn't see in the game, and that maybe we could tell some of that story. And at the time, I was watching like Cowboy Bebop had just come out on Adult Swim, and so, you know, my midnight viewing every night was Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
And I was like, what if like, yeah, what if like we showed some of them like on the ship, like, you know, in sort of like Cowboy Bebop style. Ooh, like they're sort of waiting for like what's the next thing, like, you know, where are the Heartless appearing again?
That's genius.
That's an element that, at least in the first Kingdom Hearts, that was never really explored in the games. So that would have been an interesting take on it. Yeah.
And then I thought, like, you know, you hardly see Riku in the game, but like, you know, what if we told more of his story too, and that, like, you know, Sora is taking this path and Riku's taking that path, and Riku thinks that he's doing what he needs to do to get his friends back together, and not realizing that he's kind of getting deeper and deeper into the dark side or whatever.
Everything you're saying is like, that's like pure gold, because one, that's what they kind of do in the other games. They kind of look at the perspective of Riku. But had this show got off the ground, I would have very much been invested in the kind of like, yeah, what is Riku doing? What has he had been doing this whole entire time?
Yeah. You know, the pilot, like, people have made comments that like the pilot like moves along too fast. But like, I had 11 minutes to set up the entire premise of, you know, that there's these entities known as the Heartless, and that they're going from planet to planet, and that the planets are like, you know, like that there's the Tarzan planet and the Alice in Wonderland planet, and like, you know, and
Right.
like it
Right.
established all of that. And then, you know, like the real mission that they give you in development is like, you can't do an origin story pilot. It has to be like, this is episode 7. And so
Okay.
people watch the animatic and they're like, whoa, well, how come we're at, you know, Agrabah already? And it's like, well, it's Agrabah because the original script was Agrabah, and I figured like, you might as well keep some parts of the original script.
Right. Appease the
So, you
higher
know,
ups.
yeah. And but yeah, there was a, you know, ton of story to tell in 11 minutes. So all of those things would have been spread out over, you know, other episodes, and even just the fact that Kingdom Hearts would have had a series arc, or like a season arc at the time. That wasn't being done. It was only being done in anime.
Right.
Right.
You know, it was Disney had done it on Gargoyles, and Gargoyles was also the reason why they were like, we're never doing that again.
Wow.
Because,
Oh boy.
Because what
Gargoyles
happens
was
is, yeah, Gargoyles is great. But what happens is in production, you know, like what I was saying about like, you basically have this waterfall schedule, which is like, there's episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode
Right.
4, episode 5, like that, you know. And so that's how you sort of like stagger the production so that you know, can like, you've got like team A and team B, and like they do all the even numbers and they do all the odd numbers, like that. That's like the most basic structure. But what happens sometimes is that like, on episode 104, yeah, we had a freelancer who was doing the thing, and then it came to the end, and they were supposed to turn their stuff in, and they just didn't turn anything in.
Oh.
So now 104 has like an entire act that needs to be done.
Right.
And so in a normal production schedule, you'd be like, okay, so let's move 105 up, and we'll shift 104 down a little bit. 104 will ship later, so maybe we'll get 105 and 106 out before 104. But when you have a sequential story, and when the episode's coming back from Korea, or Japan, or wherever it was being animated at the time, I think Gargoyles was at TMS.
Okay.
But you know, back then it would come back and there would only be like a little window before it actually had to be on TV, and so not enough time to like reconfigure the order so that the story made sense. So when you hit a hiccup in a sequential storyline like that, it had a ripple effect on all of the other episodes, because now you've got to like throw everyone on 104, because that's the all hands on deck episode. And then now 105 and 106 are suffering because the crew from that came onto this to finish that. And so, you know, it takes you a while to recover from that. So just the fact that Kingdom Hearts would have been a sequential storyline would have been different. And, you know, it wasn't only until, you know, Avatar that, you know, we got like an American, you know, sequential storyline.
Right. For sure. And like, I think because even Disney at the time, for some of their animated cartoons, I think some of the behind the scenes animators, didn't they get to pull out like some of the archives for like backgrounds like from different shows? Were you able to do that for Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah. I really wanted it to feel like that this story could have been taking place at the same time as the story of the movie.
Right.
And you know, and I wanted to have like, you know, we couldn't do this, but like if it were to go, to have like, you know, when Riku and Sora are fighting the Heartless in this alley, that like we could see in the other alley that like Aladdin is doing the one step ahead of the bad guys song or something like that. You know? So it's sort of like, you know, parallel. So I was like, I mean, and that was another thing that because I started my like producing directing career at Deke, like you definitely didn't have the budget to like you didn't have the budget, you didn't have the schedule that that some of the other shows had. Like, you know, Mummies had less than half the per episode budget of you know, a show at Warner Brothers or at Disney.
Right.
And so you had to come up with like other ways to like make it work. And one of the things that they did at Deke was they had a huge library of assets from all of the other shows that they had done. And so some ways that you could like make it work is like you'd use incidental characters from that show, and you'd use props from that show, and you know, stuff like that. And then you design a bunch of stuff for your thing. And so I just thought, like, from a production standpoint, Kingdom Hearts would have like blown the reuse out of the water, because you've got like they did an Aladdin series, a Hercules series, a Little Mermaid series, like. And so you could pull from the archives for all of that stuff. And also, like, selfishly, I just wanted to go to the archives.
Anyone would. I would want to too.
So I, you know, I put in that request to go to the archives to look at backgrounds from Aladdin, and I was able to like get them to give me scans of the backgrounds, and so that's why the pilot has like actual backgrounds from Aladdin. Also, I didn't want to draw backgrounds, so
if they're there, no, for sure, take advantage.
Well, because it was they wanted it to be a full color animatic, and I wanted it to look good, and I was thinking about like the number of backgrounds that would need to be painted if we were doing 11 minutes, and the money that they had to do that. So yeah, it was at the same time, it was a creative solution, because like I wanted it because it's going to look better with that, but it was also like a production solution because, like, you know, we were able to like make it look like we spent more money on it than we did.
Right. And with you know, with the pilot trying to be like this this pioneer for like American anime at the time, were you for the pilot, like how did it test? You know, like did the executives like it? Did they have suggestions on, you know, oh, we want to go back to the original script that we have, or did they want to move forward with it at the time?
So it tested really well. It tested better than anything that they were testing at the time.
Wow, okay.
The execs definitely felt like that it was really rough, and it was really rough. And you know, I had you know, some of my team that had presented themselves as being able to do After Effects and, you know, Premiere, and it turned out that they were BSing and didn't know how to do After Effects and Premiere, and so then I had to take time away from drawing the board to do After Effects and Premiere, and so the board was rough, you know, and there are some like pretty manky drawings in there, but so they wanted to like. They asked if I could have like cleanup artists come in and clean up the board more, and we were only gonna have like a couple weeks to do that because you know, they needed it for that testing period,
right?
And I've just seen, you know, cleanup artists kill the life of a drawing by just like cleaning it up and putting it on model, but then it loses something. Like, you know, that Sora's face behind you there is totally off model, but you know, it gives an attitude, and that's the point. Right. It doesn't need to be like all of them are totally off model, but that's not the point.
I kind of like Riku a little bit. I kind of like this one.
But that's not the point of a storyboard. The storyboard is to, like, you know, for you to get the feel for what the story is, and so. And I think that like when you first watch it, you're like, oh my God, these drawings are like, you know, a little rough. But then, you know, you should pretty quickly just get sucked into the story, and then you're not even thinking about the drawings. So when they had done that first script, they had pitched Nomura on the idea of a show, and they gave him that script. And he was basically like, no.
Tetsuya Nomura, wow, he said no.
I mean, I wasn't in the meetings.
Right.
But this is what was relayed to me, that like,
Right.
and so so they did this as sort of like an internal proof of concept, but then they never showed it to him, and I never talked to him. I never talked to anyone from Square, and then, you know, the word was like, you know, even though it tested you know, really well, you know, they're already making other games, and so they don't want to have an animated series come out while they're making the other games, and so you know, they just basically shelved it and forgot about it for 20 years. And so so cut to 1 year ago yesterday, for me, I almost died in a car accident.
Oh wow.
I was pulling out of a recording studio, and there was a delivery truck that was blocking my view, and so I had to like pull out, I got T-boned by a distracted teenager in my tiny Datsun 240Z. So, you know, a modern car, you know, he was driving like a brand new Mercedes. So brand new Mercedes weighs a lot more than a little 2-seater Datsun.
Right.
So he came into the car about a foot, I was in the hospital for 18 days. You know, I was like touch and go whether I'd make it. And so, you know, I get out of the hospital, and, you know, I had always wanted to like show this pilot. And I had asked like different heads of the studio at different times, like, hey, like, you guys aren't doing anything with it. Can I just show it? Can I just put it on my YouTube? And so kind of because of the accident, I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to show it. And you know, I had shown the tape a bunch of times, and people were like, "No, you don't actually. You don't actually have it. Like, you know, that there's nothing on that tape." So yeah, no, there was something on that tape. It was the pilot. And so the reaction to the pilot was amazing, and hopefully I haven't blackballed myself at Disney. You know, I still, every time I talk to someone there, I'm like, hey, who can I talk to about Kingdom Hearts? Because you guys should really be making that. Like, you really, really should be making that. And especially with Disney Plus, like, you know, doing Kingdom Hearts for Disney Plus, where you could have it in the Disney category. You can also have it in the Pixar category. You could also have it in the Marvel category. You could also have it in the Star Wars category.
Yeah,
all encompassing. Yeah,
you could have you know, like, do something with the user interface where, like, you know, you can see the characters from the show going from one universe to the other. You know, it's just like, it's such a no-brainer. And you know, they really want an anime project, and it's like, you guys have like a really kick-ass anime project.
It is
like,
there.
The template is right there.
Yeah, it's a low-hanging fruit. It's 20 years worth of fan buildup for this thing. Like, just make it already.
And then also, we've seen the shift at Disney. A lot of their current productions are serialized, so it's not very much the episodic.
It's different when it's not for you know, network television. You know, because when it's going to go onto a streaming service and it's going to be there in that form for you to watch however you want to watch, it's different because you know, in the past, you know, the mark that they wanted to get to was syndication, and so in syndication they want to be able to like air the episodes in whatever order they want. You
could pick up wherever.
So but you know, now with streaming, like, you know, people definitely want a storyline that goes over the whole thing. So no, like, I mean, Kingdom Hearts for years, I mean, for decades even, fans have been clamoring for like an animation of it, whether it's an anime or an American created cartoon. They've wanted that. And I remember like in the mid to late 2000s as a kid, just, you know, playing the video games, and you know, going online, going through internet forums about the games, having questions. There was always this rumor about
an animated Kingdom Hearts show. But like no one ever had any proof. People would say, yeah, my uncle's cousin's best friend, he works at Disney, and yeah, he says it exists. But it was almost like that myth, that legend. Like, yeah, some people say it exists, but it's not really out there. Where can it be? It was only until like, I want to say the last like 5 or 6 years, you see content creators starting to talk about it again, like, on YouTube, and they're bringing it up, and they're like, yeah, back then there was something made, but it's in someone's attic or in someone's basement somewhere tucked away. Like, we have no idea.
This door right here is the door to my shed. That's where it was.
As an exclusive, we see it. It's right there.
That housed all the knowledge for this pilot. That's cool to us. That's cool to us.
Well, after doing it and it not going, like, because I was so passionate about it that, like, you have pilots that you do that then don't go, and you're like, yeah, I mean, like, it didn't have legs. But this was one where I was just like, you guys are making a gigantic mistake. Like, you should be making this. And so, like, this one kind of stung. And so I just, like, I didn't even pay attention to Kingdom Hearts anything. I didn't play any of the other games. And it was just like, it was like that girl that you dated for a summer that, like, I don't want to hear about, like, what's going on.
Right.
And so at one point, like, one of the problems for me as a director is a lot of times my drawing time is spent fixing other people's boards. And so, like, I didn't really have, like, like, finished art of mine that I wanted to show. And then I was like, I mean, like, I like worked my ass off on that Kingdom Hearts thing, and, like, no one's even seen that. And I knew I couldn't show the pilot, but I was like, I could show my boards. Like, you can show your boards. And so I put together this, like, this one post that I put on my DeviantArt page, because that's all you had at the time, was pre-Instagram and all. And I didn't have a following on DeviantArt. Like, no one knew who I was. I'd post things, and like a week would go by and like 2 people liked it or something like that. And so I posted that Kingdom Hearts thing, and all of a sudden, like, I had like 1,000 views of that thing. So it was, and then it just kept going. And then was the first time that I was like, oh, there's like a huge fan base for this, and they're like really rabid for content. And then it was like a little while after that I took a picture of the cassette, which I took a picture of this one. This is the
cassette.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that is
that needs to be in a museum.
Right.
So I took a picture of that, and then people went nuts. But still, it was like, I can't really do that because the sun is out now. So yeah, the accident, I sort of had 0 fucks to give, and so it's like I'm dropping it.
I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm glad you got in an accident, but that brought us to your attention, and it was like, that one, as fans, that was huge because it was confirmation. But then I feel with like animation, anybody, whether you're director, producer, oftentimes y'all don't get enough credit for all the work that you've done, and then you drop this, and then we geek out as fans, and now we're looking into your career and everything you've done, and we see, oh, you've been here the whole time.
I've always been here
for decades.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, wow, like it took for us to realize and give thanks and show appreciation.
Next year will be 30 years in animation. And I think, like, Mummies came out 25 years ago. So I would have started on that like a year and a half before. So maybe it's like 26, 27 years as a director. And there's a bunch of things that I worked on that I think aren't even on my IMDb. That I did a bunch of pilots. I was trying to make a go of my own studio for a while, and I had like pilot after pilot after pilot after pilot that was like, all right, this is gonna be the one. Gonna be able to move out of my garage and move into like actual office space and have an actual crew and not do it all myself. And then those pilots don't go for just the lamest reasons,
Right.
And I wasn't the executive producer. I was the one that was making the pilot. But I'd be like, yeah, they said before, like at the beginning, they said they don't want that, but we still
Right.
have that in the thing. Like, so who are we making this for if not the people that gave us the money to make it?
Right.
But yeah. So Brown and Friends is kind of the first thing as executive producer. Kind of like coming back after that whole time is I did the last thing that I did with my own studio was the pilot for my my willy-nilly project, and that was like Netflix, or the exec that I was talking about, Netflix, not Netflix as a whole, but the exec was like, we're doing this, we're making this.
Right.
So I didn't take on any other work at my studio. And then when they were like, yeah, we're not going to make it, then I was like, oh man, I need work. I stretched myself way too thin doing this. So I went back into DreamWorks for a little bit and worked on Trollstopia and Where's Waldo, and
Okay.
and then Brown and Friends came onto the radar, and it was actually one of the execs that I had worked with on Willie that recommended me for Brown, and so in 8 days we find out like how the numbers look and if we get to do another season, and so that's the thing.
Nice.
And in the meantime, I'm doing the thing that you do when you're between projects, which is I'm at the same studio and I'm helping out on another project that is kind of like struggling, and doing fixing boards.
No, nice. Like, I mean, knowing what you know now as like a producer, director, writer, having worked on Trollstopia, Brown and Friends, would you have tackled the Kingdom Hearts show a little differently if you were doing it today, or would you kind of go about it the same way? Like now knowing that there's
I
like
definitely
10
would've-
plus games now.
Yeah. I mean, if I were remaking that animatic today, I definitely would hire an editor that I know that he knows what he's doing. I would hire a compositor that I know that he knows. But it's also different now, like that was on paper that needed to be scanned and colored and stuff like that. And now we've got these Cintiq.
Oh, okay.
And and working with Storyboard Pro, like there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Like you could basically animate it in Storyboard Pro, so it would be a lot more finished. And but story wise, I don't know that I would change much. If I was doing another 11-minute, then and it had to be like the episode 7 kind of idea, then yeah, I don't know that I would change it that much.
Okay. No, because for sure, like knowing that there's like so many games out there. I know with the recent trend in video game adaptations, there's this want for more or less like a faithful adaptation of the source material, while at the same time trying to differentiate itself from that same source material. So there's that fine line where you want to make it your own project, but at the same time not alienate some of the older fans. But I think I still think, having watched the animated pilot that you released, I think there was passion behind that, like a lot of passion. I think this would have taken off had it been released, had Nomura and Square Enix given the green light for this back then. it just looks fun. Even the voice of Sora, I know that's not Haley Joel Osment speaking for Sora, but still I believe that it was a character in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
So,
well, the kid that did Sora had done work. He was sort of like a sound-alike for Haley. It was like Haley had done some Jungle Book stuff or something.
The Jungle Book 2, yeah.
Yeah. And so this kid had been brought in when Haley, because he blew up and then, was harder to book, I guess. And so that's really the only reason why he wasn't in it, because it needed to happen. Like, they wanted to get it in for this round of testing, and it was already so close to. So I guess that's something that if I could do it again, I would be like, guys, let's take our time with it. Let's not like just race to get it in for this round of testing. But he would have been the voice, for the series. So.
And for the record, you haven't been blackballed by Disney. That right? That you haven't heard that since you released it.
I haven't heard any. I mean, I had a call with someone that actually she worked on Mummies Alive. Way back when. So we've known each other that long, and she worked at Sony when I was at Sony, and so we've known each other for a long time. And she's now the head of production there. And so she was the one that made the call, and we like caught up for like an hour of like, oh, so where's your daughter? Where's she going to school? And oh, you've got twins? Like, oh yeah, they're there. And then at the end, she was like, so that pilot that you put up, you can't do that. You gotta take it down.
Ooh.
Come on. Take it down when? Rough. Take it down next week.
Let some people download it before we.
People did.
We did. Yeah.
I mean, that's media preservation. You want that out there so you know that it exists for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, but I haven't talked to her since. So they were talking to me about about something there, and but then also I've heard that. I think things changed even from the time we had the conversation because, Bob Iger was out and now he's back in, and so I've heard that everything's a little bit on hold there as he kind of like sorts out what the game plan is and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe it's still.
I guess I ask because, like, if Disney were to ever, come back to this, or Nomura was like wanting to give the green light, I mean, I would be campaigning for you to be in this project and be back helping and leading. Yeah, I feel that's like deserving for you. Yeah, like
it would be kind of epic. Yeah, they do that like D23 where they like announce all of the things. Like. Would be pretty sweet to like walk out on that stage with like the Kingdom Hearts music playing.
I can imagine the goosebumps.
Yeah, it'd be a mic drop moment.
Or a Keyblade drop moment. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like it. No, well, awesome. No, Seth, hey, we appreciate you giving us, a behind the scenes look with, your career in general, and then also with the Kingdom Hearts special. Do you have any other series that we should look forward to or future projects? Like I know you mentioned Brown and Friends dropped, in 2022. Is there anything else that you're working on? Or I think you mentioned this is like the wait period between projects.
Yeah, and Brown and Friends is really the thing. So, it just dropped last month. It was December 29th it dropped.
And it's on Netflix? It's
on Netflix, yeah.
On Netflix, okay.
And it's based on the Line Friends characters from Korea. It's really big in Korea. And then aside from that, like you don't hear anything. So when I hear the numbers, then we'll know something. It's also on YouTube, so they have it on the Netflix Junior YouTube page. and it looks like a preschool show, but it's not a preschool show.
Mhm.
It's and it's my first like full CG 3D thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a non-dialogue show, and we had a lot of fun with the scripts. And I wrote, I don't know, like maybe a third or a quarter of the episodes, and then I was executive producer and supervising director and story editor, and I directed a bunch of episodes, and I was the scratch voice for all of the characters. Because we did, how the deer in Eight Crazy Nights have that like.
Yeah, that's you,
Yes.
right? That's you.
That's
doing
not
it.
me. That's Sandler.
Oh, okay.
But I did a similar kind of thing for the characters in Brown and Friends. So like they talk, but it's like that. So they're like, so it's just like gibberish speak. And so I was the scratch voice, and then we recorded after all the animation was done and everything. Then we recorded other people doing the scratch voice, which it was really bad me doing the voice of the female characters, because I'm not gonna like try to falsetto my voice or anything. It's still going to be me going, and then I'll just pitch it up a little bit. But yeah, it was that recording other people to cover my scratch that I was pulling out of the parking lot, and yeah.
Nice. And then do you also have like a website where people wanted to, visit to see some of your other works, or if they want to order, one of these lovely commissions?
Yeah, so DojoProductionsInc.com, which Dojo Productions was my studio. And so when I was like, I'm not going to try to do the studio thing anymore. I'm just going to try to like go back to running shows for other studios. Then I turned it into a store. And so, it's got the Kingdom Hearts selfie print, and it's got, the stickers, and the technical foul stickers, and the Whitey and Sora, and the Max stickers, and I'm gonna it's kind of a new thing for me, like putting art out that way for people to buy, like just a sticker or whatever. But definitely gonna do more of that this year. Put other prints out that aren't Kingdom Hearts prints, and so, and I have like, this is how many of the board panels that I have left.
Okay.
Oh.
This is it. This many. So I am gonna drop those on the store also. I don't know how many altogether there were. I want to say like maybe like 300, 350. And so this is how many are left.
Wow.
Like 20.
Oh, I see one of those is the pots from Agrabah, the spider thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's but a lot of what's left is like that. It's like tiny little Sora in the corner, or
right.
Or it's the the back of Donald, like it's Donald's butt as he's getting launched.
Interesting camera angle.
Or it's like Sora's arm, and there would have been something happening right there.
Right.
So that's sort of like, it's the odds and ends that are left. But I'd rather have them in the hands of fans than in my storage.
No, we appreciate. Hey, we ordered 2 copies of the selfie, the gummy ship selfie.
Oh, awesome.
So we definitely appreciate it. But no, Seth, thank you so much for coming on to our show. I mean, we just loved just all the information you gave us for Kingdom Hearts, 8 Crazy Nights, just some of the work that went in behind a lot of these productions, because we were completely oblivious as to how difficult it is to get some of these shows off the ground. So
it's not easy.
It's not. It is not. So awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. Well,
yeah, thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for those of you that tuned in for the Yonko table today. We had a very special time with Seth Kearsley for our second ever Vivre card special. We're gonna close things off here. Grandmaster Hoop, you wanna close us out?
Oh, okay. Seth, we're gonna put you on the spot real quick. We do a little. Usually, when we close out our show, we do a little song, relevant to the topic at hand. I guess we're gonna test your knowledge real quick. It's like don't forget the lyrics. I'll start, you finish, and I think it should be.
Okay.
I think it shouldn't be too hard for you.
I don't know how much singing you're gonna get.
I just do it.
Is it the technical foul song? Coming off the street with dirty shoes on your feet?
Oh no!
That was honestly what I was gonna leave with.
It's not too late.
No. He literally took the lyric.
Sorry.
God.
Yeah, it's a technical foul.
You know what? He did it. There it is. We don't even need to do it. He called it out. So we're good. Never mind. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Catch you later, folks.